And this movie is absolutely heartbreaking. I blame it on you. And it's just sweet, but also gives you just a little bit of heartbreak and sadness at the same time as well. What inspired this movie?
Thank you. I love that. I'm always, Tarantino has a great line, or maybe he's poaching it from someone else, of like being your first audience. I like writing stuff that I want to watch, and I love watching bittersweet stuff, so that makes me happy to hear. Um, Documentaries, Best of Enemies, Gore Vidal versus William F. Buckley, Life Itself, about the film critic Roger Ebert and his rivalry with Siskel, his own illnesses, and his relationship with his wife, and how that informed things, were big influences. I love those docs and wanted to kind of squeeze some of those themes out and try to do my own thing. And um, yeah, I wrote it from like 2017 to 19. My dad was Washington State's first liver transplant and a very sick guy, like for 30 years. So it was like kind of an awareness of the vacuum of having the parental figure who retreated into his own illness, understandably, and living like we all were through the modern era, the what are we living through era, of like just watching things break collectively and wondering where that leaves us and wondering yeah, it's like having that existential bomb go off, in terms of actual loss of my own family when my dad and other people passed and collectively in the nation, and it just becomes a filter for I don't know what has meaning, and then you kind of look inward at yourself and you're like, yeah, I don't know. I've given such weight to things that I'm not sure were worthwhile. So it was a lot of what I would imagine is happening for a lot of us as we live through tumultuous times, which is reevaluating and love of some particular documentaries that I thought had some wisdom about what matters. Um, and that felt like enough of I had enough ingredients in the kitchen that I could like whip something up that I'd want to watch.
Patrick, certainly as an actor, you're an orator as part of your job, but was there something you had to learn about giving speeches and sort of debates that you maybe didn't have as a skill as an actor already?
Well, I mean, you're right. I speak a lot when I play a lot of doctors and lawyers and teachers and stuff like that. So I'm used to having sort of a mouthful, but um, the debate stuff, not so much. That was new territory and it was daunting. But I was thrilled about the challenge of it because I liked what Ian's script was saying, even though I wasn't necessarily sure what it was saying, which was exciting. I thought in the doing it would reveal itself. It turns out the doing reveals something, but you're just a part of it, and it's not until the viewing that you get more of a sense of like, oh, that's how that fits in, which is a great reminder of like I like being a collaborator on this stuff. I don't like being in the driver's seat of the whole thing. Um, but in terms of practicality of doing it, it was interesting shooting it because you've got Kaylee on the other side of the stage, and we're there doing our scene work, but it's giant monologues to your point, and it's a lot of sitting back and watching the other person, roll. Um, and sometimes my attention would I would start thinking about myself. I'd forget where she was and I'd get like, oh, that sort of thing. And I'm sure she felt the same thing sometimes, but in the end I really liked it because it's unique. His script is unique because it uses the debate forum as a way to get ideas across, and you just don't see that. So I was really really excited about being a part of it.
Haley, the two of you are on opposite sides of this stage, but you have this friendship that unites the two of you as well. And I'm wondering if you and Patrick spent much time sort of fleshing out how your debates would go on the stage as friends who are also opponents.
Sorry, I'm in my parents' sunroom and my husband is on all sides of me watering things, and I'm just very distracted. Like, I wish I could show you guys. It's like, anyway, he's just running around watering, I guess. Um, do you for the question about our friendship versus our like enemyship, I think that what's cool about it is that what Patrick and I get to do is we get to play two characters. Um, I'm Sarah in front of an audience, and then I'm real Sarah. And I think that it's compelling because I feel like I'm more interested in this idea of like, is there a real you? If there's a single other soul in the room, are you being yourself? And I think that Sarah's youth and fame and faith and feminism and the intersection of like Christian feminism and the intersection of the Me Too movement and all of that like really compromises her ability to feel safe enough to just be herself. And so that especially in the dinner scene, I watch that even and I'm just like, who is she? What is she? Who is she? What is she up to? And so it's really fun because I feel like that's exactly how you feel when you're around another human being. You're like, what are they up to? Do they even know? No.
Diana, this is such a special role for you as well. I'm curious between, I'm sorry, there's a dog excited to hear from the both all of you. Um,
Oh,
Claire and Simon have this bond, but also this fleeting sort of disconnect between the two of them as well. Is she upset at losing her husband because she's ill? Is she upset about maybe him being distracted by another woman? Or is she just distracted about losing her life and wanting to spend her final moments with someone she's loved?
I think there's
All of
a
the above?
right. I'm like, I don't know. That's a lot. Probably all of them in one way, shape, or form. But I think Claire may be the only one in the moment at the debates that sees the value of simplicity and maybe the ability to step away from something after such a tragedy. You know, you say your best friend just passed away and you still want to barrel through this thing. It's like, what is happening? Where are our values? Where do we stand? And yet she sticks by her partner um for the entire time. Even when she leaves, she comes back because of love, I suppose. So it's an interesting place to be, I suppose, for her because she wants to be nothing but at home. She doesn't want to go through any more, and she has to support her partner.
And is Simon looking for some normalcy during this dark time? Is this his way of sort of grieving, but also keeping what he knows familiar so as he has one thing to hold on to that hasn't changed in his life? Or isn't going to change, like losing his wife or
Uh, not just saying this. I have chills because your question, Jamie, is so like that's for me is on the nuggets of what I think Simon is doing. I think he's absolutely clutching, even admitting late in the film, it like he's aware that it's trivial to his wife, but he needs it's whatever. It's the thing that maybe we all have that would be different for each of us, but it's a thing that we know. Okay, in moderation maybe, but no, forget moderate. I can as Patrick says very well, like his character uses his words as weapons. He knows this landscape and can control it. It gives him identity and mission, and I think it's exactly what you said, and Patrick plays it so well. I love the multifaceted things that he brought to this. Where I saw Simon as simpler, although I was hoping and finding the kind of North Star in Patrick of finding like the contained, the almost trapped inner child, that there's this, and in certain parts we get almost like a serpent like he's really just relishing the moments. I love all of the ways that Patrick plays Simon as desperately needing this thing, which is exactly what you're saying, Jimmy. I think you've got it, at least for me.
Patrick? Well, I know there's heart and depth and sadness and movement and all of this to this beautiful film. Is that what you think is going to make The Way We Speak such a must-see film, or one that people tend to take and have it linger in their hearts, something that's going to linger with them and maybe bring into their own family? Cherish, cherish those moments, cherish those people, cherish your normalcy, as we were just talking about with Ian during those difficult times.
Yeah, I think you're on it. I think Kaylee said it earlier too. This, everyone's going to take something a little different away from it, without a doubt. Which I like. The film is not providing necessarily answers, but it's certainly roiling around with some questions, and unique in this film as opposed to most of the movies and things that are out there these days. This really is challenging you to sort of think and feel. And it's not going to give you a pat answer. What are you going to do about that sort of thing? You can judge Simon and judge Sarah and judge Claire for how they're behaving with one another, but in the end, what would you do? And I think the film opens up that possibility to you without answering it for you or hammering it over with you. So to your point, I think it's a film that does linger, but I think also that comes from the direction of it, because it doesn't get heavy-handed. And also our director of photography has shot a beautiful film, a gorgeous immersive film. And so consequently, it slyly brings you into this world of words where really it's the visual that encapsulates you and draws you in. So when it stops, I think there's a feeling of like, even though it was fraught with a lot of emotions that were possibly uncomfortable, you regret having to leave the world because there was a warmth about a lot of the shooting of it itself.